there, Arma here today. Welcome to another Armavation conversation. If you've been keeping up to speed on this channel, you know that the guest I'm going to introduce has made an appearance here many times on this channel. He's a content creator, alternative music artist, all the way from Tennessee. I present to you the one and only Rogelio Capone, aka TenTillDeath. Woo! Let's
Woo,
go!
woo. Hey, woo. Feels good. Feels good to be back again. Been a minute. Been a minute.
As always, before we get started, I ask my guests, human to human, how have you been doing? How's this year been going for you? You have any highlights you want to share?
How's my year been? Well, 2023, one of the best years of my life. 2024, the first 6 months of 2024 were some of the worst months of my life. But I kept high hopes up. And the second half of 2024 has been some of the happiest, best moments of my life. Some highlights. Some highlights. We've updated our attire, we've updated our room, and we finally got a gaming PC. It took a
Nice.
minute. I spent 10 years trying to accomplish that goal, and I figured out a way to get a gaming PC for cheap. So, woo, yay. That's just one highlight. I guess another highlight. Oh man, I guess just being alive, because being alive, I've got to experience a lot of good things this last year. I've got to meet a lot of great people who've taught me great many lessons, including you, Armavation. So being alive
Hey.
is a good highlight. Very simple highlight, but it's very good to me.
Yeah, you could say that again, definitely. Well, that I'm glad.
Woo!
I'm glad to hear that you have at least some highlights and you're making improvements. That's really good. All right, okay. Let's start with the main reason why you're here today. So I contacted you because I see your content now is more geared towards alternative music, talking about Gothic culture. In general, I wanted to learn more about the golf community myself, and I know there's people out there that may not truly understand what it actually means to be golf, and I'm glad you're here to let this be a more of a educational representation by you sharing your perspective and giving us an inside look into what that exactly means. Uh, I did a little research and I did notice an article. It's called "Meet Tend to Death," aka Rogelio Capone, based on
Hey, I know which one you're referring to.
yeah,
I know which one.
based by Canvas Rebel. You said, "quote I left my passions behind to recoup and eventually return stronger than ever. Once I returned, I rebranded to Tend to Death, a Gothic influencer and alternative music artist. I rebranded into Tend to Death as it truly represented the true me after I went through a self-discovery mental health journey following my breakup." So I want to ask you, based on that article, how does that rebranded name Tend Till Death truly represent the true you, and why out of all genres of music you chose to go into alternative and gothic music? Like, how does that genre of music make up who you are?
So first off, I'll explain the meaning and its correlation to me. Well, when it comes to the name meaning, and then I'll answer the other question. So I'm glad. I'm glad because I've had people ask me what does tintal death mean, you know, in the real world. But I'm glad we are going to be documenting this so people can understand, and I can repost this on my YouTube channel because a lot of people have asked me this question. So woo, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I've waited so long for someone to ask me this. So tintal death has three meanings. The first meaning, 10 seconds till death, meaning, at any time, it could be 10 seconds till you die, right? 10 seconds till death, 10 minutes till death. And the third meaning is very important to me. So, and we'll have to get in a little bit of the psychology field with this one. So, in the psychology world, there's a thing called age regression, and the idea is where an older individual mentally they regress to a previous state of childhood or adolescence. So someone might physically be, I don't know, 32 years old, but mentally they've regressed to a childlike state. Usually that comes out of them dealing with a traumatic experience or them dealing with high stress, and so their brain tries to return to a previous state where like a previous mental state where essentially there wasn't a lot of stress, so like childhood, right? And 10 till death, what that has to do with this right here, it deals with age regression because for a long time until I went through that mental health journey, and I thought this was weird, and I thought I was weird for this, and I had no clue it was called age regression all these years. For a long time, I felt like I was a 10-year-old even though I like mentally I still felt like I was a little kid, right? Like I still felt like I was a little kid walking around in a grown man's world. And what I didn't know for many years was that, that's pretty much age regression. And I didn't realize a lot of that was from trauma and stuff. So the other third meaning for TenTillDeath has to deal with the fact that, most of my life, I felt like I've been 10 or until death, I'm going to feel like I'm mentally the age of 10 till death. I don't mentally feel like I'm, a little child anymore since I went through the mental health journey, but that's part of the reason. Feel age regressing, at least in my livelihood, and feeling like a 10-year-old child till death. So that's the third meaning. There's several reasons. I'll highlight the important reasons. So the first one, this goes back to the year 2022. And I still love hip hop, and the album I'm working on is half rock, half hip hop. I knew towards this, well, not even before we entered 2022, back at the end of 2021, that eventually there was going to be a point where I didn't want to make hip hop music anymore. Like, I didn't want to make my own rap music, and I was going to want to produce for other smaller artists. And especially towards the second half of 2022, I felt like I released everything when it came to hip hop music. Anything and everything when it came to rap songs that I wanted to make. I felt like, I finally made it all and I did it all with what I wanted to do hip hop wise, and I felt like there was nothing left. So the first main reason for the alternative thing is because one, I just didn't really feel like there was anything left for me to do in the hip hop sense. Now the second reason, and this one's very important. Growing up, I listened to a lot of alternative music, a lot of metal, a lot of classic rock, a lot of punk rock, right? And especially when I was a teenager, I got really heavy into that. But when I got bullied as a teenager, I stepped away from listening to, alternative music because unfortunately, I was kind of programmed and wired through that bullying to view alternative culture and alternative rock music as a bad thing because, oh, if I'm going to get bullied for, well, 16-year-old me was thinking if I'm going to get bullied for listening to rock music, why would I want to listen to rock music anymore if I'm just going to get bullied for it? So I kind of, as a 16-year-old, I kind of moved away from my true self and gave in to the norms of society, right? But when I went through that mental health journey, I kind of picked back up from that time period when I was 16 and, where I quit listening to alternative music and I got back into alternative music again. And then that's when I realized through that mental health journey, I was like, yo, the only reason why I quit listening to rock music and looked down on people who listen to rock music was because I was being bullied. And I truly loved it. I was just very insecure about admitting as an adult that I loved rock music because of that bullying that took place prior all those years ago. So, being able to pick up off the music that I grew up with, it really feels like me because one, I mean, you can express emotion through music in general, whether it's hip hop, whether it's country, whether it's pop. But when it comes to alternative music, being able to just vocally scream your frustration and pain over a pretty hard rock song, hey man, killer stuff, killer stuff.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. It's like you kind of refound yourself, like through that trauma and bullying and being judged. You kind of rekindle, like spark something again with the music you listened to when you were younger, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go all the way in with what I truly love. I'm not gonna let anyone bully me or judge me anymore with what I loved. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. There was something they liked when they were younger, but their parents or whoever was like, no, don't do this or that. And then, eventually when they're older, they're like, nah, I'm an adult. I can do what I want now. And it's like a different love for it. So that's good to hear.
Hey, I mean that's pretty much accurate. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the word golf. So, in your own definition, what does it mean to be golf? Or when someone says you're Gothic, how would you describe it in your own words?
Well, if someone says that I'm gothic or just the term goth, I would describe it with a multitude of meanings, all compressed into one. So I would sort of describe it as if someone said I'm gothic, I would think that would personally mean that I'm a free thinking, self expressive individual that that dresses dark, that appears mysterious, and likes post punk and gothic music. That's how I would take it in my own words.
Okay, okay. So, when you kind of fell back into alternative music and just being golf in general, even though you fell back in love with it, were there still some hesitancy to go into the Gothic culture, or were you at a point where it's like, you know what, I don't care anymore, I'ma do me?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, there was some hesitancy because, you know, I mean, back at the end of 2022, I became alternative again, right? But there's many different alternative cultures. You got emo, punk, goth, and all that stuff. But I understood with the goth culture, and especially now, from my understanding, the community, the online community specifically, and this is kind of why I try to stay away from the online community, except on YouTube, because the YouTube community, they're pretty chill. But the online goth community, they're very strict. They don't want outsiders that, I guess a good way to put it is, take me for example, right? Dressed in all black, we have a dark red shirt, we got black hair dye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of members of the goth community that would, bully me and say, "Oh, you're not really goth, you're just a poser," right? Just because, of the way I'm dressed, right? And so, not even just that, even if you don't listen to Gothic music. So, for example, I listen to Gothic music, metal music, pop music, and you have some real strict gatekeepers who, if they find out you listen to anything other than Goth music, like if they found out you listen to Taylor Swift, then they would start coming after you saying, "Hey, we're not going to allow this person to stay in our community. They're not a real Goth because, they're listening to other things besides Gothic music." So, me knowing how strict the online goth community could be and how harsh they could be towards newcomers, there was a ton of hesitancy. When I first started uploading the goth-based YouTube videos, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of fearful that I was gonna get a ton of backlash from the goth community because they wouldn't accept me. But so far, it seems that they've accepted me and they've welcomed me with open arms. So yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that it was that strict. Cause when you think about hip hop and other genres of music, other communities like the urban community and suburban community, they're kind of more, as far as I know from my experience, they're more open with like, oh, you like hip hop and urban styles and culture, but you could also like pop, and then you could also like jazz and stuff. It seems like, as far as I know from hip hop culture, is kind of more open to things. I don't know if that's because hip hop has more subgenres now. I don't know, but I didn't know that. That was interesting. Okay. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that make
I'll
you
leave.
feel, though? How does that make you feel, like that there's people out there that's like, oh, you listen to this genre, you can't be a part of us?
Well, I'll say this. So see, I kind of made a YouTube video where I did talk about the people in the goth community that do gatekeep the community, and it makes me personally, it makes me feel like I don't belong. And I know not just me, I've heard this from a lot of other people that have tried to get into the community. It makes them not want to be a part of the community. It also gives our community a bad rep because you have all of these people that are like, "Nope, you can't come in." Oh, like it's kind of like this. There's a lot of goths out there that expect any and all newcomers to kind of be at the level where I'm at, right? Fashion wise, music wise, just everything wise, right? Knowledge wise, knowing the history of the culture and stuff. And when a newcomer doesn't know everything from the get go, those newcomers get bashed. They get bashed heavily by a lot of people out there. And then that causes newcomers to not want to, join our community and then think our community is just full of very mean spirited people. So it makes people like me feel like we need to do better for our community. And just like in that YouTube video where I discussed the gatekeeping in the community, I was like, because our community has been dying. It's really been dying. Like, and it's like I said in that video, I'm like, how can we complain about our community dying when we're not allowing newcomers into our community because we're criticizing them over everything? Whereas the hip hop community, because I mean, technically, we can argue and say I'm still a part of it since I have people that still listen to my hip hop style music. At least the hip hop community was more welcome to me. They were a lot more welcome to me, and you've seen it in the hip hop community, all those different subgenres, all those different sub communities within the hip hop community. they're very open and welcome. They're even welcome and open to experimenting with new styles within hip hop. Whereas with the goth community, they're very strict. So it just makes people like me just not really feel too kosher about ourselves.
Man, what? So I guess would you say like the best solution to combat that is just have more people who are aware of that just be like speak out like how you're doing and just spread the awareness that that's going on and kind of like try to find a way where the community can be open-minded and allow people to feel more vulnerable and express themselves in different ways.
Oh yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree because I know a lot of individuals in the community. They've started to speak out against these people that have been bashing all newcomers. But it wouldn't be such a problem if it was one or two people this is happening to, right?
Hmm.
But when it becomes an issue where multiple influencers, even influencers that have been openly discussing how this has become a problem, have been getting bashed for talking about it. But I feel like that's the best solution because it's like pretty much what we're talking about here. It brings awareness to the issue, and hopefully more members in the community can find out about this awareness and find out about these issues, and then they can try to change their behavior towards allowing newcomers into the community.
Right, right. To add to that, you did mention before to me that people have judged you in the past or made comments about how you need to find like God in your life, or ever since you were became Gothic, like how have you overcome those judgments, and is there a misconception about the golf community where if people see Gothic people like, oh, they aren't aligned with God or they aren't religious because they look or dress a certain way or listen to a certain type of music?
Oh, you asked one of the best questions ever because I've talked with a lot of people about this at work. So those people that judge me, first off, I understand why they judge me, and I don't blame them because if you go back to the 70s and 80s, unfortunately, the goth community, well, I'll just say that the news and the media at that time, they conflated the goth community with the satanic panic that was going on around America at the time. So unfortunately, the goth community guilty by verdict, even though the goth community isn't necessarily a part of the satanic panic thing that was going on back then. Unfortunately, it gave the community a bad rep back then, right? And then even, you got to remember, most people don't dress all dark with the makeup going on, black hair dye, unless normally, they're alternative or unless, they're living a gothic sort of lifestyle. So I understand that makes a lot of people perceive people like me as probably being satanic, probably having issues, probably, being evil and with the whole Bible thing, right? Now, this is what's weird. And I've talked to a lot of people at work about this, and a lot of people can't believe it. You know, I'm pretty sure the first episode we done that was back before the whole goth thing, right?
Yeah.
Back then, I was just normal Sal, normal TenTillDeath, normal Rogelio Capone. Did not dress like this at all. At that time, I never really studied the Bible. I went to church growing up, but at that point in my life, before all of this, back when I dressed normal, I didn't really know the Lord like I know the Lord now. Never studied the Bible. Never, went to church. Whereas now, and this is kind of a shocker to a lot of people, but like I said, I understand because based how I'm dressed, a lot of people would automatically make those assumptions. Now versus then, I have a lot more knowledge of the Bible. I keep a personal Bible in my lunch backpack all the time because I read it all the time at work. And then there's YouTube channels I watch where they talk about the Bible and the Lord. And I've had a lot of great Bible discussions with people at work where we've talked about theories, we've talked about our own interpretation. So current me knows more about the Bible and is more deeply involved with the Spirit of Christ now than I was 2 years ago at that time, which that's kind of a shocker for a lot of people around me to have found out because you look at how I looked before and you would automatically assume, oh, that person's more so aligned with God because he didn't have the piercings, he didn't have the tattoos. But current me is actually more so aligned with God and my understanding of the biblical than that person. And what was the other part of the question, Arma?
Well, you answered very well. I was just gonna add an additional question and just say, do you personally know anyone from the golf community that is religious, or if they're, if they believe in God? Just personally, just asking.
Personally, I can't give exact. Well, there's one name. I'll say Brian Welch. Yeah, Brian Welch of the band Korn, because he's a really gothic individual, and he's even done he's done testimonies and services around multiple different churches where he spoke about him turning to God. Not even just that. A lot of people don't know this. So, from my understanding, you have different types of goths. You have, atheist goths, satanic goths, which that's a thing. I don't personally dabble in that. Those people that want to dabble in that, that's theirs. I'm not going to comment on that. You have spiritual goths, but the one thing that I found interesting, one thing that I really found interesting is there's a whole sub community within the goth community called Christian goths, and they make Christian gothic music. And I know that for a lot of people that seems very contradictory. Most
Wow.
people can't even fathom that idea. I couldn't even fathom the idea either, because you look at how we dress, right? And it's like what I said before. You wouldn't just automatically assume someone to know God like that based on how they dress. But to know that there's a sub community of Gothic Christians, yeah, that's even kind of a shocker to me.
Wow. I see. I didn't know that. I'm learning a bunch here already. Okay. Uh, are there any other misconceptions or hidden truths about the golf community in general, or about being golf for people who don't know?
First misconception is we're not all how do I put this? And I'm gonna try to keep it very PG with my wording here. We're not all we're not all freaks in the sheets. That seems to be a very weird misconception where there's a lot of individuals, both men and women, that believe that just because based on how we're dressed, we're very freaky like that and we want it all the time. No, 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 no. That's actually completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. A lot of goths are very self-reserved and very self-aware, and they're very protective of their bodies and what they do and stuff like that. So that's the first thing, which I understand where those misconceptions come from. That comes from the 90s, where there was a lot of, let's just say, naughty goths that, made it to the news and the media, and the news and the media, of course, picked that stuff up. And there's even a mini documentary where it covers that, and that aired on TV back then in the 90s. So a lot of people, ran with what the news and media said, and then that mini documentary, and they just automatically assumed. One of the second misconceptions is we're not evil. In fact, and I mean, yeah, of course, you have some mean spirited individuals in our community. I've met some mean spirited ones, but a lot of people don't know this is a lot of goths tend to have, and I don't like to get political here, but this is from my understanding of the community. A lot of goths tend to be very liberal leaning, but at the same time, you have a lot of goths that tend to be, conservative leaning. But from what I've noticed is a lot of the goths, they're not doing no crazy animal sacrificial stuff, but you probably have that odd one person out. Most people, they're very helpful, they're very nice, they're very respectful towards individuals. It's just they don't want, they don't want people impeding on them or stepping on them. And I'd say a third misconception is we're not all depressed and doom and gloom. Of course, physically we might have the embodiment of doom and gloom and depression, and might be on the suicidal fence based on our image, right? But from most goths that I've came across, even me right now, we're mostly very happy on the inside. Outside, this is just a creative expression of our creativity, our artistic mindset. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, of course, you do have those people that are doom and gloom and depressed and sad, but most of us are actually very happy individuals. And that's a misconception most people, they don't understand. But I mean, I get it. It's like I said previously, based on appearance alone, you would think or you would assume, oh, yeah, this person's going through stuff.
Okay, yeah. So it seems to me just like any other community, there you have different people into different things, regardless of what community they're actually in. So that's good to know. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
so you mentioned before, you mentioned the color black as far as when it comes to outer appearance and clothing in the Goth community. So, what? Why is the color black significant, or how is the color black significant when it comes to Gothic culture, and why so?
Oh man, this one's a tough one to answer because I know that there's a lot of people that have different opinions on this. So I'm gonna go from I'm gonna give an answer based on my personal opinion and some of the opinions of others. So the color black, I mean, besides it being a pretty cool color, and you can match black with anything and it looks good. Black with white, black with red, black and green. It looks good regardless of the color, right? The color black, for a lot of people, it represents mystery. It represents, darkness. It represents a bit of intrigue. So for a lot of people, the color black represents those things. Those are ideas that are held by them, and just, dang, I can't really give a straight answer on this because a lot of different people have a different answer on this, but I'll even throw in the whole little thing where there's a lot of goth people that believe the color black represents death. And I even heard this one, and I can kind of get behind this idea with the color black in the gothic community, is that, most people, they tend to dress in more lighter colors, right? Oh, there's two things I can add on to this. So most people tend to dress in lighter colors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in society, well, at least I guess I've started to see it in more recent times, but 20, 30 years ago, dressing in more black or more darker colors, that would get you seen as an oddball. So for a lot of people, darker colors and the color black represents counterculture. Counterculture in terms of fashion, counterculture of what's being pushed out by the mainstream, or society in general. And I'd say the other thing is, for a lot of people, the color black, it represents the dark side of life. It represents that mysterious side of life, when it comes to death, sadness, depression, unsolved things, or, the despair of life. So for a lot of Goths, the color black is very comforting to them, because the color black, for a lot of Goths, it can appear as a symbol of hope, which sounds very weird. It sounds very weird, but a lot of Goths, from my understanding, they find comfort in the darkness. And when I say the darkness, I'm not talking about the darkness like evil darkness, like the biblical darkness. I'm talking about the darkness of life, like coming to accept that, some people die young. That's a hard one to swallow. Not everyone can, understand that. The darkness of life, like, how you're going to have to unfortunately struggle through life. You'll go through the highs and the lows, and those lows really make you as a human being. So a lot of people find comfort in those struggles, and as J. Cole once said, there's beauty in the struggle. That's all for that one.
Oh, okay. Facts on that. Okay. So, is there any
Mm-hmm.
other colors that is common in the culture, or is it just really mainly black?
Oh no, there's multiple colors, and I'm trying to think how I want to say this. Okay, so first color is very dark red, like this one. A lot of people would associate that with vampire goth or Victorian goth. You also have white, of course. White one is a classic staple hood. Some people will take a long white collared shirt or a long white Victorian dress shirt and match it with, black bottoms or a black overcoat. You also have kind of like dark purple like this. Those are the three common colors from my awareness, but the community doesn't necessarily gatekeep colors. I mean, oh yeah, dark green too, because I know especially in the 90s there was a lot of goths that, they were experimenting with different colors. So there was some people that would do bright yellow and black. Some people would do bright pink and black. People would experiment with it, but the main three colors main four colors I tend to see, or you can see across the community, is white, dark red, black, and dark purple, with the other colors, just being however you want to go about it.
Okay, and just to ask you personal, and from your perspective, how do these colors affect your mind and spirit? How do you feel when you wear these colors?
Oh man. Well, bless. This is an interesting question. Okay, okay. Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is it makes me feel like me, like who I am in here mentally. The second thing is, it makes me feel mind and spirit wise. It makes me feel very comforted, because also this goes back to me saying it makes me feel like me. A lot of people in American society, and this is understandable, they struggle to express themselves fashion wise because they're scared of being bullied, right? So when I dress in, the way that I dress, it's kind of a reminder that, hey, I decided to go against all those years of bullying where people would bully me for dressing in darker colors. And it's me, sticking it to society and saying, hey, I'm going to dress how the heck I want to dress. Well, I'm not going to get too crazy with it, but you know what I mean? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to, dress colors that I want to dress, and I'm not going to let you guys get to me. And so it feels very comforting, to me knowing that I'm able to, that I was able to overcome those insecurities and fears and just push back against how society would want me to dress. And I'd say the other thing, and I felt this, and I know a lot of other people have felt this. It's kind of felt like how do I put this? And I've heard some people talk about this. Some people will even say getting all dressed up and stuff, besides the creative aspects of your mind and stuff and the artistic values. Some people I've heard say that it kind of feels like a power trip to them because you're dressing up as this whole entire different entity, and so some people get an ego boost off of it, some people get a power trip off of it, and I know what they're talking about. I think there was one point where I did feel that, but sometimes you have to differentiate. Yeah, you have to kind of like separate the fashion from. I mean, you get what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
think you
yeah.
get what I'm saying.
I can understand that because when I wear purple, no one can't tell me nothing. That's my favorite color.
Hey, there we go. I can rock with purple now. Purple is the way. Purple is the way.
All right, all right. So yeah, let's get into what's the typical styles or outfits that Gothic people wear. I know you kind of touched on that. Like if you could break down, like what do you guys wear? Like what's the cosmetics? Like if you could break that down.
All right, this one's good. This one's good. So first off, we gotta start. We have different types of goths, so we can break down the cosmetics. But all of these goths share one common thing: black pants, black dress pants, or black jeans. That you will find out across the board with all goths, right? Or if you're a female, most likely a black skirt, right? But most goths, from my understanding, depending on the goth you are, like if you're a vampire goth, right? Which I like to do the vampire goth stuff. Most of the time, you'll wear, a long black overcoat. You'll do, the whole little lighter face. You'll have, chains and like freaking rosaries and necklaces. Yeah, chains, rosaries, and necklaces. That one's a common staple hood across the board. You'll find most goths with, neck jewelry all across the board. And especially if you're a vampire goth, most of the time you'll wear Victorian-esque style collared shirts, and that's actually a very old school goth thing. A lot of old school original goths, they wore a lot of Victorian style clothing because the idea is the Victorian style clothing, because how old it is and how vintage it is, it makes you appear older than you actually are. So that's part of the aesthetic purpose. And for most goths, you'll probably see them rocking, piercings of some kind. Most goths, you'll probably see them rocking black hair or dyed hair or a split dyed hair of some kind. And I think most goths, you'll probably see them rocking, the lighter face with the makeup of some kind. Some people do the black lipstick, some people don't. And now this one varies. This one varies. Some goths they'll do pants chains, others won't, but mostly across the board, it's mostly black top, black bottom with some piercings.
Okay, okay. Raheli, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but could we get like an outfit of the day, or what you rocking with?
All right. Yeah. So, all right. Outfit of the day. So we got our long overcoat. We got the nice little. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. So most goths, because goth is very DIY. Before we get into the other thing of this, since goth is very DIY, most people do a lot of thrift shopping when it comes to their clothes. Because that's a like thing most goths do. So most goths will go to Goodwill or any used thrift store, and that's where they'll get their clothes. So we
Mm.
got the black overcoat, and I actually put this little cool little purple fake flower onto the overcoat. We got the chains. We got the rosary. We got a little bat necklace from Dollar Tree. Of course, fingerless gloves. Then we got, of course, the red shirt. And then right here, we got our cool little skull belt buckle.
Oh,
And then
okay.
if you look over here, we got a nice little chain. So
Ooh,
I'm
okay, I
going to try to get a
see.
full body shot. and we'll do a 360. This is mostly a body shot.
Fire.
360.
Okay. There we go. Outfit of the day.
Hey!
Y'all see it. Y'all see it.
Hey!
Y'all see it. Okay. Nice. Nice. and
All
I
right, I'm
and I
back.
see you. I see you had on your. You got the nail. The polish going on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The nail polish.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that too. A lot of people do that as well.
Okay. So is there any I know before you showcased some of your music albums, but what's kind of like the music people in the golf community usually listen to?
Well, most of the time, from my understanding, it tends to be cold wave, or I think they call it dark ethereal music. A lot of time, it tends to be oh man, a lot of time it tends to be punk rock music or post punk as they call it. Other times it tends to be gothic rock, and most of the time it just tends to be metal. And some goths they won't admit to this, but I know a lot of them that do listen to it out there. But a lot of people out there listen to a lot of pop punk, or as some people refer to it as emo music. But I mean that's up for interpretation.
Okay, and what specific I think you posted this before. Yeah, you posted this online, but what is specific artists that you listen to?
Oh man, specifically, I would probably say, well, from the goth side of things, I would probably say The Cure, and I hope I don't butcher the name because I've never actually heard the name pronounced, despite listening to them for a while. Bajas, I know there's Sisters of Mercy. Dang, what else? I think it's called The Vaudevillains, London After Midnight. That one's a good one. Those are the ones that I can name off the top of my head, of course. Oh
Okay.
yeah, wait. There's one more.
Mhm.
Now, some people debate this. Some people debate this. Well, two different ones people debate. But let me make sure. Okay, yeah, my phone's charging right. Just trying to make sure it's not going to die on this thing. Okay, so we're good. There's two things people debate. Some people will debate if Evanescence is a gothic rock band, and I will say they're a gothic rock band, so I consider them goth rock. Not everyone does. Some people in the community do. And the other one, this one has been a huge debate in recent years. It's Dave Vanian of the Damned because Dave Vanian dresses very goth, and then they made a whole goth album like I think 40 years ago. So a lot of people, they've been debating over the years if they're actually a goth band or not. But I personally consider them a goth band, so I'll throw their name in there too.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Now you talked about this earlier, but I see you got the skull in the back. So we know that skulls are like used in rock and heavy metal, like a part of that culture. Some like we talked about previously. Some people see the skull as something morbid. Some see it as cool, like you're bad to the bone. Other cultures like the Day of the Dead, where they're celebrating the life of their ancestors and everything like
Hey,
that, and they design and the different skulls. So what does the skull mean for you, and what do you think it means for the golf community?
oh man. So for me, to me it's just cool aesthetic wise. I just think it looks cool aesthetic wise. Now for the goth community, it does have a it depends on who you ask. I know some people in the community, it represents, beauty, of course, because even with the Day of the Dead, they celebrate, the dead, of course, and they celebrate stuff like that. And as a fellow Hispanic, I can confirm that one. So yeah, some people in the Gothic community they view the school as death, and a lot of people in the Goth community view death as a beautiful thing, which that depends on who you ask. I even know some non-Goth individuals that view it as a beautiful thing. I guess being with your family member in the last minute and getting to experience their final minutes with them might be a beautiful thing, but I don't know about that. Other people, they just like me. They just view it as cool. I know there's other people that they just view it, they view it more so as morbid and kind of sinister, which makes them attracted to it. And more so depends on the individual in question on how they view that one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And then of course, like with the holiday celebrated here, Halloween, people do go out with that. So yeah, um, this might be an interesting question here, but what are some no-nos or things you can't do or shouldn't? Well, you did talk about this, but what are some things you think you shouldn't do in the golf community?
Oh man, this one's a good one. So the first one, and I'm gonna be very careful with my words here because we're on the Armavation podcast. I'm gonna keep it respectful. So the first one, and this one has become a very widespread topic in the goth community, and I think I just had a video that released the other day where we talked about this. So one of the things you don't need to do in the goth community is you don't need to fetishize goth people. And why I say that is because from my understanding, it's become a big issue where a lot of goth women have been being fetishized by men. Which I mean, that's just that. I mean, we could sit here and say, yeah, that's an issue with women in general. Like a lot of women get fetishized by men, but with goth women, it's become a lot more apparent. There's even a lot of men. Yeah, another thing you don't do is you don't pretend to be goth just so you can get a goth girlfriend. That's actually become a really big issue where there's been reports where people have been going to like goth events pretending to be goth just so they can get a goth girlfriend, which that one kind of boggles my mind. That's another thing you don't do. I'd say a third thing you don't do. And oh man, this one is so tough because this one's kind of controversial to say, but I'm going to keep it PG. And to me, this doesn't necessarily bother me. Whatever however you view politics, that's you. If you want to be a Republican goth, okay, be a Republican goth. If you want to be a liberal goth, be a liberal goth. But most goths tend to be very liberal based, so the majority of the goth community tends to hold very liberal values. So where the controversial thing I'm going to say comes in is, you know, a lot of goths don't want, how do I put this? One of the things you shouldn't do is you shouldn't be a conservative goth, which I know I just said a minute ago. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me if you want to be a conservative goth, but I'm just saying it's going to bother a lot of, goth people because there's a lot of goth people that hold very liberal based views. So, a lot of them just don't like conservative goths, which, like I said, doesn't bother me, doesn't matter to me. I think the last thing I would also say is don't bully other goths because, yeah, it goes back to the gatekeeping thing we talked about earlier, where some goths just, they're not welcoming newcomers in. Well, it's not even just that. It's an issue now where goths have started to bully other goths, telling them they're not goth enough or they're not really goth. And then it's caused a lot of goth YouTubers to start making videos and even goth TikTokers to make videos aimed at each other, calling each other out, saying that they don't know what real goth is. Or, oh, you don't know what real goth is. So like that's like imagine that Arma, because I know you make hip hop music. Imagine if some other underground artist, went into your DMs and told you, you don't know what hip hop is, Arma. But you are right here. You're making hip hop I mean, those are like the no-nos that I can just think of off the back of my head right now at the moment.
Right, right, right. Yeah. That's good you shared that because it's always interesting to hear the perspective. Like, what I guess there's things like, oh, certain things you shouldn't do when it comes to like morals and principles and stuff like that. But hearing it from a perspective from different communities is interesting as well. So let's go into the difference. You mentioned emo before. So what's the difference between being goth and emo? Because I think
Oh
outsider
boy.
looking in, like it seems the same to me. But if you could break it down, that would be very helpful.
Oh boy. Well, I'm also gonna add on to the thing you don't do in the goth community since you brought up the emo thing. You don't uh you don't call another goth person emo. A lot of goth people that I'm telling you, a lot of goth people take offense to that, and oh boy, but I'll explain the difference because I've been both. I've been both. I know as a teenager, I was really deep into emo, and then before I became the goth I was now, I became emo again, of course, and then eventually turned to goth because goth is a lot more mature, and I think emo's more so for the kids and stuff. So eventually, I knew I was gonna have to grow out of that, but there's a big difference. So the first difference is music based. Emo music tends to be very pop punk. Some people will say, well, some people will argue about that one. I mean, it's crazy. The communities argue, but emo music tends to be pop punk or Midwest emo from the 90s or hardcore, emotional hardcore rock. Yeah, I think that's what, yeah, I think that's what they call it, emotional hardcore rock. So music wise, I'm trying to think of an emo song almost everybody and their mom knows from back in the day, because I'm pretty sure there's some emo songs you might know that you've heard but might have not known they're emo. Trying to think of one off the top of my head. You ever listen to the Jonas Brothers as a kid, Arma?
Yes.
Well, well, back in the 2000s, they made a lot of pop punk music, and a lot of the music they made, right? Now, imagine the music they made, but with a lot more emotional lyrics. A lot of people, that's called pop punk music, and a lot of people call that emo music, which that one's up for debate. But most people have accepted that, that pop punk is now considered emo music. So I mean, pretty much think about that. Like think about that as emo music, right? Now, when it comes to goth music, it tends to be a lot more, as they call it, a lot of very similar to old school post punk rock. A lot of the older goth music, it tended to have like organs, like tended to have a lot more synthesizers, tended to have a lot more reverb and echo in the music, tended to have a lot more themes around death, where a lot of emo music tended to be more so about feelings, emotional feelings, where a lot of goth music tends to be more so about death and darkness. So that's the first thing when it comes to their difference. Now, the second thing, and this one is kind of tough. This one is kind of tough because I've got called emo, out in public, even though I've dressed super goth. And so I think we've all faced this before. When it comes to the fashion, the biggest difference is one, most emo people, at least from my understanding, will start with the hair. Most goth people, they'll either, if you're a guy, you can try one of the many goth hairstyles. You can either do a nice little classic, mohawk, or you can do slick back with your hair back and maybe a bang or two hanging out in the front, right? Whereas with emo hairstyles tend to be like trying to see if I can get this. You get like you try to swoop it all to one side, get one of it to cover one of your eyes to appear more emotionally based. So that's the
Mm.
first difference. Second difference is emos tend to wear a lot more tight skinny jeans, which I have some tight black skinny jeans in my closet. Whereas goths tend to be, they tend to wear a lot more a lot more looser fitting pants, like bigger, baggier black pants, and a lot more goths, makeup too. A lot more emos. They do like I'm trying to think what's it called. I'm just gonna call it the emo makeup look, where you know the eyelid will be completely black, under the eye will be completely black. Whereas goths, they tend to go a lot more crazier with their makeup. They'll do black lipstick. They'll probably do a cool little bat right here. They'll probably do a little bit of eyeshadow to give themselves a dark, menacing appearance. And emos, I think they tend to wear a lot more band-based shirts. So like a shirt, of one of their favorite bands, or they'll wear like a part black, part white striped T-shirt. Whereas goths tend to be more dressed up and more mature in their clothing. So like I said, dark red, thrifted shirt or a black overcoat. So I'll say when it comes to the fashion style, goths tend to be a lot more mature, whereas emos tend to be a lot more so on the punk fashion side of things. And I'll also say this, and it's also in the name. Emos tend to be a lot more emotional. In the name, emo. So that's the main differences that I can think of off the top of my head.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about like the word emo as part of emotional. I don't know why that just clicked when you just said that. But
Oh
okay.
yeah, oh yeah.
Where would you place the Adams family? Transylvania characters. What category would they fit into? More emo or goth?
Oh, they would fit in the goth community because the entire goth community accepts them as goth. But I also understand why they would be considered emo as well because I think Wednesday Adams, because I've watched the Wednesday Adams show and I thought that was pretty cool. First season, she tends to be a little melodramatic at times. So that kind of makes her appear to be very emo, but
Yes,
she's more
yes.
so on the goth side.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for sharing showing the comparison. That helps give me me a better picture and other people who don't know a better picture as well. So let's get into some conclusion questions before I let you share some of your different cool decorations back there and stuff. So, uh, what advice do you have for people who may want to learn more about Gothic culture, or people, or what advice do you have for Gothic people who feel they're being judged or misunderstood and they don't know how to deal with that?
So I'll answer the first one. For people that want to know more about Gothic culture, there's two things, and this is my answer to not just specifically Goths, but when it comes to any culture, whether it's hip hop culture, whether it's a racial community, whatever. Usually just go up to members of that community, ask them any questions you have, and ask multiple people, right? Ask multiple people. The second thing is, of course, you always got Google, right? You got Google. There's a lot of oh yeah, good example. You have a lot of Gothic YouTubers, but you have people that were Goths back in the '90s and '80s that on the YouTube community that can give a lot of answers on that. So of course, when it comes to any community, if you want to know more about the culture and stuff, ask the members, or find YouTubers or people online that are a part of the community, and just dive into that and see where that takes you. As for the people that get judged, oh man, that's tough because I faced some incidents at work for the way that I've dressed. I've faced incidents, you know, out in public for the way that I'm dressed. I faced a lot of judgment. I faced a lot of judgment. So first thing that you're gonna have to do is, and this one's a hard one. This one's a hard one. Does this take away the fact that that judgment is gonna hurt? No, not at all. But just understand that the way you're dressed as a goth person, it is vastly different than how the majority of people, dress. So understand, a lot of people are just going to judge you from the get go because you're not dressed like the majority of people. You're dressed differently. So understand, as a goth person, that you got to understand. You got to understand that. If you can't understand that, then you're going to have a bad time from the get go. I mean, it's going to hurt either way when they judge you, but understand why they're judging you, because you don't represent the majority of people in American society, or over in UK society, British society. So of course, what happens when you're not part of the majority in society, whether it's you're not part of the political majority, maybe you're not a part of the racial majority in a society. People are going to judge you. People are going to judge you, but start with that. Start with that. Understand that why people are judging you is because you're not part of the majority. Second thing, talk to people, educate them, because a lot of people have those misconceptions and stereotypes about you and your community, whether it's racial based or whatever. Educate people, let them know how the community really is. Of course, highlight the problems that the community has, because every community has problems. But when you educate people and you let them know how your community really is and how the people actually are, for a lot of people, it changes their biases that they have towards that community. So, like, a lot of people at work, they had a lot of preconceived notions about me, but then when they got to know me and they got to learn about me, and when, believe it or not, we had alternative people at work that saw me reading a Bible. That shocked a lot of alternative people at work, because a lot of alternative people don't believe in God the way that I believe in God. So, it kind of destroyed, because there's the bias that all Gothic people are satanic or non-believers. So imagine another Gothic person finding out that this Gothic person believes, and then they started asking me questions and I started educating them. So the second thing is educate people, let them know who you are, what your community really stands for, and those values. And if it can change one person's mind, maybe that one person doesn't judge other people in the future, right? So, it benefits others. And I'd probably say the last thing. The last thing is, remind yourself you're not, those stereotypes people are going to call you, unless you actually are one of the stereotypes. So unless you actually do stick to the stereotypes, remind yourself that you're not those words that people, say about you. A lot of people, good example, uh, and I've had this happen to me multiple times, but it's understandable. I understand, so it doesn't shock me anymore. Whereas it used to shock me. I remember earlier on this year, I was out at Dollar Tree, getting me an energy drink. Sometimes I'll get me arts and crafts stuff, and sometimes if I'm feeling a little bougie, I might make a nice fancy ramen and get the Dollar Tree ramen because they have some nice ramen there. But there
Bad
was
and
a
bougie.
lady, and yeah, there was a lady there, and she saw how I dressed and how I looked, and she put the most disgusted face on as a way of, showing how she's reacting to how I'm looking. And when I saw that face, it really made me feel bad about myself. I was like, I really started to feel angry when I got to my car. I was like, man, what the heck is wrong with these people? Like, she's really just gonna, and that wasn't the first time. She done it twice. She done it once somewhere in the store, and then I think she done it a second time when we were at the register. So it made me feel crappy about myself almost the rest of the day. But at the end of the day, I understood this. I had to tell myself, I'm like, well, whatever thoughts are going on in her head about me, that's causing her to give me the stank face. I got to remind myself, I'm not those thoughts she has about me. I'm not, whatever she's thinking about me. I'm this type of person. I'm a very courageous person. I'm a very work hard person. I'm gonna do what I can. Yeah, I make my mistakes here and there, but you got to remind yourself, because if you remind yourself and remind yourself of the person you are, it's a little psychology trick, but it might give you a little bit of happiness and a little bit of peace, and might make you feel a little bit more confident in yourself. Like, oh yeah, I'm not this bad person. Duh, I never murdered. You know, I do this and this. I help all these people out. So you got to remind yourself, you're not that person that people make you out to be. So that's the final thing I'd have to say about that.
Okay, okay. This last one's personal for you, Rogelio. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Do you think you'll still be making the same genre of music, or where do you see yourself next? At least in the next 5 years.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Now, I think I do. Well, when it comes to music, I still do see myself making the same style of music. But I think what I'm going to do is, because I know the album I just dropped, The Symphony of Suffering, I went above and beyond on that one. I stepped up production. I was like, all right, let's take some vocal lessons, and I'm still doing vocal lessons on a daily basis. So now my vocal performance is a lot better now than on that album. But I really stepped up and so, evolved once again into alternative style of music. So I think 5 years down the line, I'm still going to be doing alternative music, but I think I'm probably going to be doing it on a more highly, a more higher production scale. On a more, I think some of the music might be heavier. Probably going to be a lot more beautiful too, because I've been doing some very experimental stuff with alternative based music. As for me being in the Gothic community, I think I personally think, because I can't believe I am actually being accepted into the online Gothic community. A lot of people, they've thanked me. A lot of people have shared their stories with me in the community, and I can't believe the community's accepted me, because the online emo community wouldn't even accept me way back. They wouldn't even accept me, but the online goth community is accepting me, and it showed. We're sharing personal stories with each other. They're showing me their love. I'm giving them, love back, and so I think, with the way how things are going, I'm probably still going to be doing YouTube videos. Probably we might mix it up a little bit in the future besides just the discussion videos. But I'll also say this to top it off: all those podcasts, things you done, Arma, where you discussed a lot of those different things, is because of you. I know there's another YouTuber, but mostly because of you. Why I even started doing discussion videos on YouTube,
Oh
because
wow.
a lot of your podcast like episodes, well, a lot of the podcasts that you've done where you've taken parts of it and posted it on YouTube, a lot of those are discussion based, right?
Hmm.
And I always thought those were intriguing, so I thought to myself, well, why don't I do the same thing, but in the Gothic community? And of course there was Goth YouTubers already doing that, but really inspired me to do it. So I think 5 years down the line, we're still going to be doing this, but probably on a grander scale.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. All right, that sounds great. Okay, Rogelio, if you I mean, once you're ready, if you want to share some more items, maybe part of the golf that you think is part of the golf community wants to see, or people who are interested? If you have like items you want to share, decorations, clothing, maybe music, all up to you. I
All right.
give the floor to you.
Whoa! We got the mic. Whoa! Okay. So a lot of Gothic people have custom handbags. A custom handbag I've wanted for a long time would be like a cool little coffin one where it looks like a coffin and you can just throw it over your well, not a handbag, like, well, mostly a handbag, but some people call it over the shoulder bag, depends on what you get. But unfortunately, those coffin over the shoulder bags, they're pricey. So a lot of us Goths, most people don't know, is we do a lot of DIY stuff. We make a lot of our jewelry. I've made some of these, not all of these. Some of these. I've made some of my earrings, not all of them, and I've done some of my clothes too. So DIY is a very huge thing in the Goth community. So when you have an idea and you want to make it, you have to DIY it. So back to the shoulder bag thing, since a lot of people have their own custom shoulder bags and stuff, and they tend to be very black or very goth based. One that I made, and I actually finished this earlier because I've been trying for a minute. So I found this nice little thing at Michael's earlier, right? So
Oh.
it looks like a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Front and back, right? And it has a cool little bat on it. But you can actually place items inside. Now, what I done is I cut some holes in the side, and I took this old handbag strap I had. I cut it from the handbag. Then I sewed these two pieces together, and I can put my books in here and then just like throw it over me like that. So
That's
that's my
fire.
little I know that's my little custom handbag that I made. And then even this, right? With the little fake flowers on there, I took hold on, let me show you this. So I got these cool little fake purple flowers from Goodwill, and I had an idea when I bought these. I was like, well, I can take some of the fake flowers and put them on my clothes as an accessory. So that one is pretty cool. That one is pretty cool. Next one. Now, there's a lot of goth people that do taxidermy stuff. Now, I'm not big into the taxidermy stuff. I don't know how I feel about keeping a dead animal in my vicinity. Let's just say I'll say this: we had an animal that died on our lawn not too long ago, and I'm gonna tell you, having to dispose of its body, Arma, in the woods, gave it a little okay burial, I guess. But let's just say that sent chills down my spine. So I don't really feel kosher about taxidermy stuff, but I do have one taxidermy thing, and now it's not because I went and I got it. I'll give backstory before I show this. So when I was with my ex girlfriend back in 2023, I remember as a birthday present, she paid someone, and I'm pretty sure that I think this is a butterfly. I think it's a butterfly. You can be the judge of it when I show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
She paid someone to like take a butterfly, frame it and stuff like that. So this is kind of like my own little taxidermy thing, but a lot of Goths have taxidermy things. So I was given this as a gift, and just because it looks cool, I've still kept it all this time later. But
Oh
I don't know,
wow.
is that a butterfly or is
Wait,
that a moth?
hold it up closer. Oh, it looks like a moth to me.
Gotcha. Honestly, I can't tell half the time because half the time they look very, similar.
Yeah, I know. Like sometimes the moths are more on like the dark brownish, tannish side. So it may be. I mean, I don't know, but it looks like more of a moth to me.
Understandable. Another one I got is a lot of goths make their own custom jewelry. So I have a ton here, but I'm just gonna showcase one. Nothing too crazy. So we have this nice little Victorian style pendant, and I attached it to a chain. And so the idea is you put it over,
Mm-hmm.
you put it over your thing, and you just let it hang loose. Just let it hang loose.
Uh,
But I got
can,
way too many
are you able
stains
to
on.
show it closer? Cause
I gotcha. Hold up. I gotcha. Now, what most people do is they'll try to find these pendants and stuff at stores or thrift stores. So that's where I found my pendant at.
Oh, okay, nice.
Oh yeah. A lot of goth people have candles now. I get it because candles with the lights off, it looks cool. I'm not really big on candles like I used to be, just because let's just say I've had some issues with candles, and one time I almost set my house on fire. So I try to stay away from candles these days.
You know
But
that movie Carrie?
uh, I know I remember Carrie.
I just thought about that when you said that.
Oh bless, oh bless. But I'll say this before I show my cool little candle I got from Dollar Tree. What's it called? I do have some old candles that I use as incense holders because the incense will burn and go all the way down to the bottom of the candle holder. So then, there's no mess I have to clean up. Because I don't know if you've burned incense, but depending on the incense tray you got, there's some pretty whack incense trays out there where they don't really catch the incense as it burns. So you end up cleaning up a bigger mess than you bargained for. So I normally use candles and just put the incense sticks in there and just burn them in there. But nice little candle.
Okay.
I think we'll do a few more things here. Hey, okay. Hold up. Now, yeah, we'll do this. Now, some people, and I've seen some people do this, and I've started doing it too. Some people they'll take photos of theirs, they'll get it printed off at Walgreens and stuff, and make a nice little photo book of it because, maybe at some point in the future I don't be Goth anymore, right? But it would be nice to look back at the memories and have photos, like physical photos, if I guess we ever have a crazy apocalypse in the future and the internet's down, so I can't recover those photos anymore, like the digital photos on the cloud. So I have a cool little photo book of some of the little, you know,
Wait,
face paints and stuff I've done.
wait,
So we got this one, I guess. That one's pretty okay.
wait. I'm sorry, bro. Hold on. Can
Uh,
you show the front up closer of that? The cover. I'm sorry, I didn't get this.
okay.
Oh,
Woo.
okay.
It's
Gotcha.
actually hold up. Let me pull out the entire photo. This is the instant. Well, most of the photo.
Okay. Nice.
Pretty all right. Pretty all right. Let me throw it back in here. So got a little photo book here, and then I'll show a few more items, and I'm pretty much done with it. If that's fine with you.
Yeah, you're good.
Hey, okay. So in my little photo book, I have like different types of photos of face paints and stuff I've done like that. So we got one, and this one's actually from a music video that I recorded. I just haven't put it out to YouTube yet. But I think I took this photo like, well, if it's November now, yeah, this is like back in July, so this was a minute ago. But this one back in July, I guess, some people say it's very clowny esque, and to that I agree. That's very clowny esque. We got another one, and I'm trying to find one that's not too crazy in here because I have some crazy ones. So we'll just do one more. We'll just do one more. Uh, okay. I got this one. This one is from Halloween. So on Halloween, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Crow movie.
I've heard of it. I didn't watch it.
Gotcha. Well, there's two Crow movies. Well, actually, there's technically five Crow movies. If you're counting the ones from the '90s, but there's the remake that they had earlier this year, and I refuse to watch the remake because the remake oh man, they butchered my boy. They butchered my boy. But for Halloween, a few weeks back, I decided to do the crow. And look, we have a fake little crow sitting on our jacket. I literally rigged it to the jacket, so as I was going out and about, it looked like that fake little crow statue I had was a real crow that was propped on my shoulder. So I mean,
So you
it worked.
attached it
It
to your
worked well.
jacket?
Yeah, and it worked fine. People
Wow.
thought it was a real crow. People tried touching it. I even got it. I got it here. So if you don't mind, I'll show you that. If you don't
Mm,
mind, I'll show you
yeah,
that.
yeah, show it.
I'm trying to put this photo back in here. All right. All right. Do 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 do. Yeah. All right. So here's our fake little crow, as you saw in the photo.
Wow.
Now he just sits on top of my desk, but
And you made that yourself?
oh no, I didn't make this
Oh,
one.
okay,
No, I
okay.
just bought this at Michael's,
Oh,
but I
wow.
rigged it on. Yeah. But from a distance, it kind of looks pretty legit, right? But
Yeah.
you get up close. Yeah.
Did you give it a name yet?
No, would you like to be, the namer of our bird?
Let's see. Let's call him Carl. Carl the Crow.
Carl, okay, I can get behind that. You good back there, Carl? He doesn't speak much, but he does his job. He does his job.
All right.
And I think I'm trying to see one last one. There's one last one. Now, oh, where's it at? Oh, there it is. Okay. Now, I can't believe it. I don't really wear these anymore. Sometimes I'll wear them on a rare off chance, but now this one is a goth staple hood. This one goes back to the 90s, which a lot of people don't realize the 90s was about 30 years ago now, technically. But a lot of goths used to wear, a lot of goths still do, they wear the fake vampire fangs. I used to wear these all the time, but, I'll just say this. It's not comfortable while talking. You stutter a lot wearing fake vampire fangs trying to talk. So eventually, at some point, I was like, I'm not going to wear them anymore. But we have the cool little scarecrow fangs. They're in their little coffin thing. And, well, I have two sets of them. These ones are worn out, but I'm going to see if I can try to get this open and show you. But this one is like all worn out. So, I mean, it looks
Oh.
like, yeah, it kind of looks pretty bloodied up, but the idea is, no, I don't think it's going to go in. Yeah, that's too worn out. It's not going in. It's
Mm.
not going in. We're just going to leave it at that, but I mean, that's pretty much all the things that I guess I'd like to showcase, unless there's anything specific in the background you want me to show up there.
You got some posters up there, right? Oh, okay. Or is that just wallpaper?
Oh, that's actually, believe it or not, and this is the smartest idea I came up with. It's just a tablecloth that I just pinned to the wall.
Oh. Okay.
But it looks cool, doesn't it? It looks cool.
Yeah, I thought it was like where you had like different little things, slips posted up there. Okay, I didn't realize that.
I know, I know. Creativity at work, creativity at work.
Oh, and I like you got the eyes on your the little lamp on the left of you. Yeah, this like little eyes.
Hey, hey, there we go, there we go.
Yeah, well, this
But I
was
mean,
this is an awesome showcase, Rogelio. I really enjoyed it. That's really cool. I didn't
yes, sir.
I didn't know that the golf community was like more DIY. I had no idea. I didn't know that. I thought, like I know of course like you guys have a specific look that fits with your culture just like with hip hop we have our own things, or
Oh yeah.
or pop or jazz or classical, classical people who listen to classical music and they go to different events or orchestras where they dress up in suits and dresses and stuff like that. But it's really interesting. I didn't know that it was very DIY where you guys are like crafting stuff. So in a way you guys are like your own like artists. Like I don't know, like you guys are. That's
Oh
cool.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's really cool. That's really
Well,
cool.
I was about to say, I mean, well, that's kind of like one of the things that's pretty cool about the community. Of course, you got the stores like Hot Topic and Spencer's where a lot of people go there and shop. I used to go there and shop all the time, but I'm not about to pay. I'm not about to pay, for example, $20 for a ring necklace when I can just make it myself for like $2-3 after I buy the materials, right? But I mean that's the cool thing, about being goth because we're so super DIY. It's like what you're saying. We're like our own artist, and that can transcend beyond just fashion. It can transcend into how we do our rooms. It can transcend into music, and then even especially now with my most recent album, right, the one that I just dropped the other day, it it is so far because I got super creative with this album, and this kind of boggles my mind. This has been my most successful album release of any album I've ever dropped in the last how long have I been doing this? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think, yeah, this of all 6 years. I think it. Dang, I'm getting old. Of all 6 years that I've been doing music, this has been the most successful project I've had. I finally managed to figure out my core audience and what they want and what they like. So they're streaming me right now. They are streaming TenTillDeath. But, I wasn't able to make that project without being who I am, without the creativity. And a lot of that project was, DIY stuff. So, I mean, yeah, we're pretty much our own artists. But even like the hip hop community, right? There's a lot of DIY in there. You just got to find it.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of DIY. Yeah, definitely. In all genres of music, it's just what you're good at and what you want to craft. So yeah, but this was amazing, Rogelio. I appreciate you for taking the time to share your personal belongings because you didn't have to do that, but you were open to doing it. So I appreciate that. Thank you for
Hey,
bringing more knowledge to what it means to actually be Goth. Spreading awareness about the Gothic community in general. And yeah, just keep doing you, keep being you. Keep doing what makes you happy. It's going to be great to see the amazing things you do on your journey. Never give up. Don't let people tear you down, and just keep spreading positivity, doing positive things. So yeah, guys, if you guys enjoy this video, if you want to learn more about Rogelio and what he's doing with his music, I'll put all his links in the description. You could check him out. And if you enjoy content such as this, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new here, subscribe. I have some cool things going on here. If you want to be educated, so yeah. So I appreciate everyone tuning in today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And take care. Oh wait, we gotta say,
Arma, Arma,
hey,
Arma, Arma.
we have
Yay.
to say bye to everyone. To say bye to Carl the Crow. Bye, Carl.
Bye, Carl. Oh my gosh.
All right. See you next time.
No filter, I got no filter.